When my dad died, I started writing these missives to Denver. And so we went for a walk about a week or so, 2 weeks after, and when I came back to New York, and he talked to me about his brother's death. At the same time, I was talking to him about the fresh death in my life, which was my dad's death. And it just kind of naturally became this series, which I titled Dear Denver. But in the beginning of the series, I was writing to the states to kind of protect his brother's identity, because I didn't know if anything was going to come of this, and then we wrote to every state. So these are from Dear Denver. Dear New York, for reasons unwilling to be revealed, my father is no longer with you. Grief as a tree has warned me that I have my weapons misordered. Birds come and go, willows dry, fall into the creek. Grief doesn't follow any of these. James was killed by a falling machine. Falling grief says, in a Kodak factory. Having fooled you into wondering which end/direction of the casket your brother was positioned, confused grief, from pall to pause. Grief cheated, you being none in the know. For a millisecond, your brother became a dead, twitching cat. Cat tail, says grief. It does not revel in being three birds. Does not take any joy not killing the tree. A man who was not grief only yesterday, asked only yesterday where he should hide his grieving from. I thought of the child my father was as he swam in the Genesee, now as he was a river in Dublin, also Delaware. Grief reminds you it was once a canoe. Follow the laws of nature that implore, abide a craft of that size, only to become the hour of your brother and you. Grief as canoe wonders, you knew. Caskets come ill-equipped, sans paddles or arrows. Grief babbles. Grief as an entire navy recruits. Time long in the tooth. Below how many pillows has grief hid? To the man I asked, how far has grief followed? Before his mother was born. Before her first tremor whipped grief into fear. God's rattle is in God's throat. Its river hung to the hull. I get the living confused. My ditches misnumbered. Feathers exhumed.
Dear T, I found my dead brother's wallet in a box I picked up from storage in Pennsylvania. The wallet might not have been seen by anybody else since someone, probably one of my living brothers, tossed it in the box over 30 years ago. In the first plastic sleeve of the wallet is my dead brother's light driver's license, which was set to expire a few months after my dead brother shot himself, or his wife shot him, depending on how you want to imagine how that night went down. As if it matters now how that night went down. My dead brother, who would be 54 now, is 22 in the driver's license photo. He doesn't know in the photo that a few months after he stood in front of the DMV photographer and had that photo taken, he would be nearly headless and certainly breathless at the bottom of the stairs of his newlywed apartment, across a cornfield from the mousetrap factory. And it's good that he doesn't know this in the photo, because how else would he be smiling? His lady charming blue eyes so eager to please, the stranger who said, "Hold your chin up and look directly at me." Looking at the date of issuance of the driver's license, I see that my dead brother is a brand new father in that photo. I wonder if perhaps his wife and their infant son, who is 35 now, were waiting in the car while my dead brother was taking care of getting his driver's license photo taken. There's a single dollar in the money section of the wallet, a dollar my dead brother likely earned in the machine shop, perhaps a week before his skull shrapnel pierced the ceiling tiles of his newlywed apartment. I wonder if he didn't know where that dollar came from at all, but always kept it in his wallet out of some superstition. Maybe some good luck charm that an empty wallet would bring bad luck. A lot of good that did, if that's what he believed. The wallet hasn't been empty for the past 32 years, and it won't be as long as I have the wallet. Unless some night in a fit of inspired genius, I retrieve the wallet, which has been in a box in a warehouse in Pennsylvania for 32 years, and now lives in a different box in the back of a closet in Brooklyn, from that closet and take out the dollar, as if doing so might somehow reverse what happened 32 years ago, which I doubt would really be possible anyway. So I probably will leave the dollar right where it is, and someone else might find it, in a junk shop upstate perhaps, years after I myself am gone. I wonder who the young man in the driver's license photo was, and what he planned to spend that dollar on. The dollar is still crisp and looks brand new, and the driver's license photo looks like it could have been taken yesterday. So absolutely alive and breathing my dead brother is in it. The license itself always set to expire, long after its subject had any use for it, or any use for highways and roads, or any use at all for smiling for the camera anymore. Yours, New York.
Dear Iowa, the oaks are now cubs, and nobody knows when they'll be oaks again. I put the ghost question up to our daughter. Of course we are ghosts. Presume our avatars are trapped in a box, it hardly matters, which begs the question of where our dead are, and if they're on the other side of a veiled mirror, mourning us. Do we just dream the hospitals? Should we donate our ghost blood to ghosts who believe like us that they're animated? Do our living relatives give us hints, convincing birds to give them a turn to perch on our hometown steeples? A cold comfort. I'll cut this short. This whole correspondence is riddled with silence, consonants. I've got bulbs that'll never see fruition to get into the ground. I may as well be planting them in ice cream, which some jerk once did with pistachios. How often does life ripple when you're outside of it? Wires growing into a tree. Are we? Who tolerates us? Des Moines was named after a river of monks. Everything which happened back then seems impossible. This, coming from a ghost who questions his own enlightenment.
Dear T, everything that happened back everything that happened back then seems impossible. The way people move so fast we see now was recorded by moving film cameras. They ran after airplanes, and airplanes lifted off the ground and then crashed into the ground, crumpling like lampshades. Everything that happened back then seems impossible. Men with giant mustaches sat still for days to have their photographs made. Some died sitting that way. And the photographs which took alchemists and magicians many more days to coax from steaming chemicals, and which were meant for sweethearts pining away back east, while these men sought fortune or something even more elusive, comfort, became funeral portraits rather than proposals. Everything that happened back then seems impossible. It took weeks to undress someone in a hurry, to get away with something you weren't supposed to be able to get away with in a hurry. Politicians stood on actual soapboxes and said, "By gum," and took envelopes of cash from men who wore spectacles at the ends of cords around their necks. There were hangings and firing squads. There were postcards from far away, delivered long after the person who wrote them from far away had disappeared into ether. There were hot air balloons which went up and never came down. There were little girls who closed their eyes hard and wished that they could one day go to the moon before blowing dandelion feathers out across the blue sky. And little boys who snatched the dandelion skeletons from the little girls and snuffed them into the dirt, telling them going to the moon was impossible. Everything that happened back then seems impossible. Ventriloquists slept next to their dummies, hoping their dummies would be able to remember their dreams for them. Impossible, everything back then that happened seems. Ice was delivered by ice trucks, beer was delivered by beer trucks, mail was delivered by whistling men with sideburns who held nearly transparent envelopes up to the sun to see if they could read what was written inside while nobody was looking. And what was written inside that they couldn't see was, everything that happens right now will seem impossible, one day impossibly far from right now. Yours, Iowa.
These pages are a life of their own. Every time you read, they begin to shake like a ghost. Dear Vermont, in the city of the Golden Dome, there are no golden arches. I thought you should know that. You've got nothing on Paradise, though, with its golden on-ramps and thunderings. When we cornered the East River, it was as if we trapped a feral devil and had no plan at all. My old man was newly dead, and no king's lotion was putting him back together again. My first thought was to jackknife from the tsunami stones and swim out past the tugboats. It was only you standing there, with my beard growing into wheat, that cemented me. I must have looked like one of your tortured scarecrows, talon-cussed and buttony. I've developed a nomenclature, and learning to play the harpsichord isn't looking good. Essential. The medieval adjective for my tremor is wrong-headed. By the time this reaches you, they will have implanted a seismograph just below the surface of my epidermis. Would that I attempt to sip from a sacred grail, I should die of wit. I should say that I was on a swim team, rubber hats and all. Though it's been proven we cannot run from grief, Nobody has yet to attempt the butterfly. Nobody should get a medal. Nobody birds. There was one soldiering up to the pilings. You said it was your brother. I plucked a feather from his hat and called it fletching. Vermont, are we ghosts? Are your ears downwind? I have a golden tremor. My other senses are allergic to each other. When you said you buried 5 bullets for the exercise, I heard the sound of dandelions, paratroopers, the river, buying through the bed.
Dear T, nobody birds the sky. The sky, it must be said, cannot be birded, not by the likes of us, always trying to make something out of what is not. Nobody birds the sky. The wings sliced, the tail swept sky, nobody birds it. No matter how much we wish that bones might unbleach their moon-bleached shrapnel, no matter how much we wish that flesh might unslide off what were once faces, what once spoke to us, what once asked us to love them, nobody birds the sky. And I see you, the slurs of your obscene longings, the longing of your slurring obscenities. Nobody birds, nobody birds. I see you, your broken promises, and raise you my longing for one promised thing yet unbroken by you. Nobody birds. Yours, Vermont.